last session I given overview of what are the features. We were discussing about features of React. How do we work with React and React related features? Few important features we learned. We discussed about some important features and remembered those features. What are the key features? So React related, the key features we discussed that React is component based. Am I right? It is component based. It is modular. It is asynchronous. It uses asynchronous libraries. And one more. So this is the key point. So React uses virtual DOM. So we need to understand this detailedly now. So what is the concept of virtual DOM? Detailedly I will tell you. For that, every React developer must have the good knowledge of this, because this is the key feature of React. So this is the key concept of React. So actually, for that, first you need to understand what is DOM. First you need to know what is DOM. I hope in JavaScript or HTML, when you started with your HTML, JavaScript, you know about DOM. Any idea what do you say DOM is? Not full form. Full form I know, right? Document object model. What it is? What is DOM? Document object model only. What is DOM? Okay. Contents, tags, API. Fine. Okay. Let me give you a clear idea. Okay. Let's take a clear idea about that. I will give you a clear idea about it. Okay. So what is DOM and how this is going to work, we will see detail. Technically, DOM is nothing but DOM is it is a hierarchy. It is a hierarchy of elements. It is a hierarchy of elements. Hierarchy of elements presented in browser. Technically, DOM is a hierarchy of elements present in browser. Hierarchy of elements present in browser. I will tell you what does that means, right? I will explain what does it means. Detail we will see. Hierarchy of elements present in browser means what? I will tell you a small concept here. For example, suppose we are having browsers. Suppose we are having a browser. So we are having a browser. And I hope you people know that every browser uses every browser have a browser engine, right? Every browser have a engine. You call it as a rendering engine or browser engines. Every browser have a engine. This engine is responsible for converting everything into understandable format of browser. processing everything into understandable format of browser. Actually, different browsers have different engines. I hope you learned that in HTML, how HTML is translated to browser. The process I hope you all people know, that is actually under the control of browser engine. Actually, these are all various browser engines. Browser engines. Chrome uses the engine called Blink V8. Internet Explorer uses the engine called Trident Chakra. Firefox uses the engine called Gecko Spider Monkey. Edge uses very recently Edge updated to a engine called Chromium. Chromium is the latest engine used by Edge. Edge also uses Chakra and Edge HTML. Very recently Chromium. Opera also uses Blink and V8. Safari uses WebKit Nitro. These are engines. Every browser have engine. Whatever you are watching on browser, it is converted, translated, presented by these engines only. And unfortunately, every browser don't use the same engine. Every browser don't have a same engine. Different engines are there. That is the reason you might have learned that in HTML, browser compatibility issues will be there. In HTML, we will have browser compatibility issues. Browser compatibility issues means in one browser, one option is working. In another browser, it is not working because engines are different. That is the reason whenever you learn HTML, you also learn compatibility. You will learn that this tag is not suitable for this browser. Anybody who gives you information about HTML, he will compulsory give the compatibility. He will tell whether the tag is suitable for that browser or not. Will it work or not? Browser compatibility is important. Why browser have compatibility issues? Because of these engines. Because of these engines. So these are various browser engines. So let's take some point here. I will share this diagram into classroom, right? Here, to understand DOM, first you need to understand browser engines. Every browser have a different engine. Like we have Chrome. Chrome have a engine called Trident. So it not Trident, Blink, yeah, Blink. It have an engine called Blink and V8. We have Internet Explorer, we have Trident. So we have Safari called WebKit. We have Firefox called Gecko. We have Edge called so Chakra and Chromium is the engine. These are all various browser engines. So everything that you are watching on browser, it is controlled and managed by browser engine. It is controlled and managed by browser engine. Okay, that is first point clear. Now the question is how this browser engine works. That means architecture of browser engine. So architecture of browser engine, how this browser engine works. What is the basic architecture? How this browser engine works? Remember, these questions are very helpful for people who show vast experience. That means in React like technologies, what are the questions asked for general experienced people? Majority of questions related to architecture. Because concept oriented question, even a kid can answer. After all, a fresher learner also can answer very complex concept based question. Concept based questions anybody can answer. Architectural questions people fail, and experienced people are interviewed on architecture rather than concept, because concept everybody knows. Architecture is only for the people who have good experience. So that is the reason you need to concentrate on this area. If you are keeping vast experience in your resume and you are saying you are a React developer, then you must have this knowledge. So architecture of browser engine, actually this is the basic architecture of browser engine. This is the browser architecture. In the browser architecture, you will have a browser engine, rendering engine, JavaScript interpreter, data persistence. Actually, I will come to all of these level by level in different stages. We will discuss. No need to discuss all of this at a time, right? We will discuss one by one every point. Actually, this is the basic browser architecture. That means actual point is user interface is nothing but the UI you are seeing on browser. Browser engine is responsible for doing certain activities. What are those? I will tell you now. The rendering engine responsibility is to generate output. Output is generated by rendering engine. And networking is responsible for transporting data. Later I will tell detailedly. Interpreter is responsible for converting JavaScript into understandable for browser. JavaScript translator actually it is. And data persistence is nothing but local storage, like cookies, local storages are kept in persistence. Browser have lot of things. Browser have lot of things. We will one by one discuss everything. Detailedly we will go into this. Actually, now you need to understand, that means browser architecture actually. Browser architecture, it consists of UI, which is user interface. It contains a browser engine. The key parts, browser engine, it contains a rendering engine. It contains data persistence. It contains so JavaScript interpreter. Interpreter is the translator for JavaScript. The major components in the browser engine, the architecture, browser are UI, browser engine, rendering engine, and persistence, and all this. Now you need to know how this browser engine works. That means the workflow of browser engine. I will show you the workflow of browser engine. That means how browser engine works. How browser engine works. What is the basic workflow of browser engine? Let's see. This is a very important point to understand. Browser engine, how it works. Let's take one diagram here. Means how the browser engine is going to work. Suppose we have a browser. So we have a browser. Let's make this as a browser. It is any browser like Edge, Chrome, or any browser. And usually browser have a browser engine. Every browser have a browser engine. Now what happens is you are designing a HTML page. You are designing a HTML page. You are creating a HTML page. And in this HTML page, so let's say you are creating a HTML page. And in this HTML page, you are writing some code. So like you have some style, okay? and style have some paragraph. Some paragraph we have color as red, something like this. That means we are writing some style here. So we are configuring some style and we are having some paragraph in the body. That means we designed a simple HTML page like this. We have a simple HTML page like this. In this HTML page, in the body section, we have some paragraph. In the body section, we have some paragraph, right? And we have some style for that paragraph. Now what happens is this content, that means whatever you have designed, this content is first taken by the browser engine. Browser engine, it will take whatever you written and it will convert into binary form. This entire content, whatever you written, is converted into bytes. Whatever you written, you know that any computer code is not understandable to computer directly. It will be converted into binary. That means first, whatever you written, it is converted into binary form. After converting this into binary form, actually, this is the concept generally people have to know in the beginning of HTML, because they should know how their HTML works. Right? When people start learning about HTML, they should know how HTML works. This is the architecture. That means this is not a concept to learn at React level. This is a concept to know at HTML level. Unfortunately, many people don't have those ideas. That is the reason, at least now we have to tell them, because we have to work with them. Right? So people who don't have idea of this in HTML, at least they should know now about this concept. So this byte code, after you converted these bytes are converted into, these bytes are again converted into characters. These are converted into characters. These bytes are converted into characters. That means it will read the byte code and convert into characters. Characters means it will be like this. Angle bracket, we have P, another angle bracket separate. That means it will have like angle bracket B, O, D, Y, close angle bracket, everything cleanly separated into characters. Whatever binary code is there, this binary code is converted into characters. After converting into characters, what this browser engine will do is, it will take these characters, and it will convert those characters into nodes. Actually first it converts the characters into tokens. The characters are converted into tokens. A token looks like this. Angle bracket combined with P, angle bracket close. Generally, these tokens are called as tags. You call them as tags. That means whatever you have written, it is first taken and it is converted into, whatever you written, it is converted into which code? Bytes. After the bytes, these bytes are converted into characters. After the characters, these are converted into tokens. So now, very important, after converting this into token, what will happen is, these tokens are converted into nodes. They are converted into node. Tokens are converted into nodes. Now, very important is the process of converting characters into tokens. This process is called as tokenization. Tokenization. Tokenization is the process of converting the characters into tokens. After they are converted into tokens, these tokens are converted into nodes. Then node means, that means now paragraph, this is referred as P. P is called as an element. Understood? The nodes are called as elements. That means P is an element. Body. What is that body? Body is also an element. That means they are converted into nodes. These are converted into nodes. They are converted into nodes. Now, after they are converted into nodes, so now next point is actually after converting into the nodes, these nodes are arranged. These nodes are arranged in a hierarchical order. These nodes are arranged in a hierarchical order. That means we have body. Now, under that body, that is the body, in that body, you will have the element. So you will have a paragraph, or you will have a div, or you will have an image. That means they are arranged into a certain hierarchical order. They are arranged into an hierarchical order. Am I right? This hierarchical order, that means they are arranged into hierarchical order. Let me adjust this. This is browser engine. They are arranged into an hierarchical order, and this hierarchical order of arranging those nodes, this hierarchical order of arranging the nodes, this is called as dome. This is dome. That is dome. That means dome is an hierarchy of nodes. Dome is a hierarchy of nodes arranged in an order. Even you don't use them, browser will automatically put this in hierarchy. Even you don't use them, browser will put in a hierarchy. For example, see, suppose I am using here a simple example I will show you here. That means we are using a simple example here. See, this is a page. This is a HTML page. In this HTML page, I written paragraph welcome. I written the paragraph welcome, right? Now I written only paragraph, no HTML head section, body section, nothing, only paragraph. Now I will run this in browser. When I run this in browser, I can see that welcome in the page. Right click here, right click and go to inspect. When I inspect, you can see in the elements category, right? You can see in the elements category, it is arranged in a body. But I haven't written any body here. Right? I haven't written any body. It arranges in an hierarchical order. That means the elements are arranged in an hierarchical order. That is dome. This is dome. If anyone asks like, what is the role of HTML? What is the purpose of HTML? HTML purpose is presenting dome. So if anyone asks like, what generally I have to learn in HTML? What we have to learn in HTML? Then generally people give you an answer like HTML means tags. No, HTML is not tags. HTML is elements. HTML is not about tags. HTML is about elements. Elements are arranged in an hierarchical order. They have a certain hierarchical order. That means a parent-child node. This hierarchical order is called DOM. We call this as document object model. Now it is not done. What happens now? This DOM, that means this document object model, whatever you converted into DOM. Now remember, this DOM actually converted into a layout. It is converted into a layout. The DOM is converted into a layout. What do you mean by layout? Layout is a prototype of how your content is going to display on page. Layout is a prototype of the final output to come. That means the final output depends on layout. For example, a building need to be constructed. For that, we need a layout of that building plan. Am I right? That means HTML have to finally present everything. For that, first it will prepare a layout. HTML engine, browser engine prepares a layout. Layout will decide where which content to present. That means heading at right side, this at left side, that is the layout. Now, very important, this layout will undergo the process. This will undergo the process called rendering. This will undergo the process called rendering. Rendering is the process of generating output. Rendering is the process of generating output. Who will take control of this? A rendering engine will be there. A rendering engine is responsible for converting this layout into final output. Converting this layout into final output, that means this need to be finally presented. That means this rendered information need to be finally presented in the browser. And to finally present in the browser, we call the process of presenting called painting. That means what rendering engine will do is, rendering engine is going to paint your content on the browser. Paint your content on the browser. That means the result of painting is the output that you watch on browser. Understood? That means whatever the output you see on browser is the result of a process called painting. That means the result of this will be, it will be painted as welcome. Am I right? It will be presented as welcome. Suppose if this paragraph is using the word, what is it? Welcome. If paragraph is using welcome, that welcome will be presented there in the page. That is the result of which concept? Paint. That means generally what happens to your screen, this is how it actually works. That is the basic process how it works. That means we return HTML page. This page contains lot of things. This is first converted into bytes. From bytes it is converted into characters. From characters it is converted into tokens. From tokens it is converted into nodes. The nodes are constructed into an hierarchy that is called DOM. And that DOM is prepared into a layout. That layout is rendered. And after rendering, that means the complete layout process is completed. That layout need to be painted on page. That undergoes painting. Actually, we can see the process happening. We can see the process happening. See, not everything. Suppose you see now, this is the page. What I will do here is, go to, in the debugger tools, we will go to performance. In the performance, you can see, you can record the performance. Page performance you can record. There is a record button. I will click the record button. It is recording. Once refresh your page. Okay. Make it record for at least 10-15 seconds. 10-15 seconds we will record. After recording, then we will stop. Okay, now you can see that it will show you the process here, and you see the process here. The process contains loading, scripting, rendering, and painting. It contains so many phases. It is loading, it is scripting, it is rendering, it is painting. What is scripting? Later you will learn. You have time for that. Now the point is, whatever the output you are watching here, that is the result of painting. That is the result of painting. That means any developer, when you complain that this page is slow, when you complain that this page is slow, now he need to track where it is slow. That means a page is slow means there can be so many phases. It can be slow at any phase. It can be loading slow, it can be scripting slow, it can be rendering slow, it can be painting slow. Depending on where it is taking more time, he will design related content. He will use relative options to design the page. If painting is late means painting it is taking 20 seconds or 15 seconds. That means lot of effects are used. In order to present all those effects, it is taking time. That means better to use lightweight effects so that it will take less time to paint, present. That means if rendering is slow, that means engine have a problem. Browser engine is unable to process fastly. That means lot of content may be used. You have to reduce it. That means if lot of content is there, more lines, then more rendering time. If there are more lines, more rendering time. That is the reason you might have learned while using CSS, JavaScript, minification. You know, minified files we have to use. What is minification? Why to use minification? You know that as a developer, right? We use minified CSS. We use minified JavaScript. Why? To reduce the rendering time. In production level, we have to use minified files. At development, we have to use the uncompressed files. Now you have seen only one phase. There is another phase in the behind. You have seen only one phase. That means you can see that in this phase, what is the workflow of browser engine. This diagram I will share with you. I will share into the classroom. This diagram I will share later. At the end, I will share this diagram to you into classroom. Let me keep this as browser engine. Okay. Later, I will share you this diagram to you. Actually, you have seen only DOM. You have seen only DOM. But what about this style? We forgot about this. We forgot about this. We are looking for only this area. Right? We forgot about this. Actually, this is also working simultaneously. This is also working simultaneously. We left out that. That means actually what happens is, it is not only the paragraph, whatever you written, everything is taken in bytes. It will convert into characters. After converting into characters, here comes one more point is, after converting everything into characters, then there comes another part here. This part is nothing but we will have another concept working in the background that is called CSS OM. This CSS OM is nothing but it is CSS object model. CSS object model. This CSS object model actually contains the paragraph, and for paragraph, what is the color? Color is red. This is what working in the CSS object model. This CSS object model, and remember, this CSS object model and the DOM model together generate the layout. Together generate the layout, and finally they will render. That is the reason when this welcome renders in your page, this welcome renders in red color. It will render in red color. That means in the background, two object models are working for your page. One object model is DOM, another object model is CSS. Two object models are working in the background. CSS is the result of CSS OM, right? And the HTML is the result of HTML DOM. We have document object model, we have CSS object model, CSS object model. Actually, this is going to work finally everywhere. That means when you look at the browser hierarchy, you can see this is the actual rendering path. This is the actual rendering path. First, I will show you the browser process, how it happens. Whatever you written, it is converted into bytes. From bytes, it is converted into characters. From characters, it is converted into tokens. From tokens, it is converted into nodes. Nodes are arranged into a hierarchy called DOM. A DOM is constructed, and very important, after this DOM, I already told you, HTML will generate the DOM and CSS will generate the CSS object model. Finally, these are rendered. Finally, these are rendered. We have two object models. One is the DOM, another CSS model. And this is finally rendered into the output. This is rendered into the output. The rendering tree, the layout, and paint. Paint is the result, right? Final result is paint. The final result is paint. Whatever output you are going to see, it is the result of painting. This is how actually your HTML and CSS works. That means a person who says, I know HTML and CSS, we think that he knows this architecture. Right? Because as a learner, it's fine. But as a developer, if there are issues in your page, how you will track them without knowing all this? The real world issues in web designing is client always keeps on complaining on the speed, performance. You design with great features, but tomorrow client will complain that it is slow. An illiterate of internet who don't know what is internet, first complaint it is slow. We have to bear all these things. That means as a fresher, it's fine. As a learner, it is fine. But as an expert, you need to design a page with good performance. Then as a developer, you need to know where the issues are coming. So how we can make the page faster, better. React people were doing lot of research on this. Facebook people. So, and finally, they were able to do something which can make this process faster. Process faster. For that, they have introduced the concept of virtual DOM. We will come to that point, right? And this is the basic object model. That means you know the hierarchy now. What is the workflow? So you write your markup. Your markup is converted into bytes. Bytes are converted into characters. Characters are converted into tokens. Tokens are converted into node. Node is converted into DOM. DOM is converted into layout. It will undergo the process rendering. After that, it will undergo painting. That is what the output you will see. This is the basic workflow of a browser engine. The diagram I will upload later, right, into the classroom. Now, this is how the browser works. That means in this place, you have another option working in this. We have a markup. That means we have another option working. We have styles. Styles are converted into bytes. Bytes are converted into characters. Characters are converted into CSS OM. These are constructed into object model. No tokens here. Tokens are only in markup. Tokens and nodes are only in markup. Here it will converted into CSS OM. This will go into layout. This will go into rendering, this will go into paint. That is how. That means from here the process is same again. That means we have two object models. One is DOM, it is document object model, document object model of HTML, and we have CSSOM, cascade style sheet object model. So this is of CSS. This is of CSS. This is the concept of DOM. That means what is DOM? What is document object model? So web page means not only DOM, we have a combination of DOM and CSS object model. I hope you are clear in this point, right? I hope everybody understood what is DOM, right? Am I clear? Right? Yes. So the concept, it is how the DOM concept works. Okay. We got an idea what is DOM. Now the question here is, another question is, what is shadow DOM? What is a shadow DOM? This is another very important point to understand. Actually, shadow dome is a dome is a dome under any specific element in page, in any element in page. It is a dome under any specific element in the page. Under any specific element in the page, every element sometimes have a shadow dome. That means it will have actually root and shadow hierarchy of building component. It is a root and shadow hierarchy of building component. The root and shadow hierarchy of building component. For example, I will tell you a simple point here. Shadow DOM is not a new concept. It is a part of DOM. For example, generally, suppose you see everything comes under this part. See, suppose I am using here, suppose I am writing a control here. Suppose you have your HTML and here you are writing. So input type is equal to text. You are writing input type is equal to text, right? You are just writing input type is equal to text, and you are writing input type is equal to suppose date, right? Or you are writing some input type is equal to file. You are just writing like this. When you are writing input type is equal to file, this is actually the root element. That means input type file is the root. It is the root. Do you know, actually when you say input type file, it will give a file uploading option. You know that in HTML, input type file, it will give a file uploading option. Actually, under this root, generally what happens is, under this input type file, you will have a shadow. We will have a shadow DOM. In this DOM, actually, this file actually contains, shadow DOM contains a text box, and it contains a text box. It contains a button. So suppose it contains a button, a text box and a button. It contains a text box and a button. Actually, this button will have the word called browse. It will have the word called browse. This is a shadow DOM. That means under this file, again, you have two elements. What are those? Input type text. Another one is button. Button is having browse. This is how it is built. I thought that input file is only one element, but actually it is built with several elements. This is shadow DOM. That means every element is not having a shadow DOM. It is not having a shadow dome, but few elements are built with that shadow dome. That means you are just thinking that it is file, but actually it is a combination of so many elements. Now remember, this is one engine. Suppose this is the engine. The engine, like suppose V8 is the engine. V8 is the engine. Suppose this is not V8. Actually, this is the engine of Edge. Edge also not like that. Internet Explorer is like this. We have Internet Explorer engine, right? We have the Internet Explorer engine. So this is the Internet Explorer, Trident, Chakra. These are the engines. Chakra is now available to show in a different style. We will take Trident. This is the presentation of Trident engine. But observe here, the same thing, it is presented by another engine. The same shadow dome, the same shadow dome is presented by, the same shadow dome is presented by another engine. Suppose this is the engine called Chakra. That means we have Edge. Edge have a engine called Chakra. Chakra, Chromium, these are the engines. If it is Chakra, then actually this will display, it will display a button. Actually, it will display a button here. It will have a button, and this button will have an option called choose file. It will have an option called choose file. It will have a button called choose file. It will have an option called choose file. And beside that, it will have a control. This is not text box. Actually, this is a label. That is a label. That means here it is built with label and it is built with a button. It says choose file. Understood? That means every engine have a different way of presentation. Every engine have a different way of presentation. That is the reason you can see here. Suppose I am writing like this. I am writing like this. I said input type is equal to date, or I will say input type is equal to file. You see now I am opening this on this browser. You can see in this browser it gets like this. Choose file, no file chosen. Functionality is same. That means I click the file, I select a file, it will display the file name. But same page I will open in Internet Explorer. So I don't have Internet Explorer. If you have, because it is outdated now, no more Internet Explorer. If you have Internet Explorer, you can observe the same. The output will be in this way. Actually, you can see the output will be in this way. Browse. You will get a browse button. You will get a browse button. That means same, but working is same, but appearance is different. Why this is different? Because of different engines. That means when you are working on a specific engine, its appearance different. Another engine, it is different. Right? Now that is the reason HTML will not have a same behavior. Browser to browser, some tags will not work in some browsers. Some tags will not work in some browsers. HTML have a blink tag, but you never learnt about it. So because in older versions of browsers, this blinks the text, which is not supported in latest versions. That is the reason nobody knows about this tag at all, but it is used to blink text. HTML have this, but not supported by majority of browsers, so nobody knows them. But people in the early days used to blink text by using this blink. That means depending on the requirements. Now you can observe that. You see here it is displaying, but how to see the shadow dome? Right click, go to inspect. In the inspect, you see here there is browser settings. In the browser settings, you will find there is an option show shadow dome. Actually, if this show shadow dome is not selected, When you go to elements, you will feel like input file is only one. But actually, input file is not one. You go to settings and select show shadow dome, and you can see that input file is a combination. It have a shadow root. It have a shadow root. In that shadow root, you can see there is a button and there is a span. I given a label. There is a span here. That means they are using a span, and you can see the button is having another label. This is the built structure of that particular. That means is the shadow dome is a different? No, it is a part of dome. Shadow dome is a part of dome. Now page will use the dome and the components will use shadow dome. That means here we need to note one point. Dome is for page and shadow dome is for shadow dome. Shadow dome is for component in page. Understood? Component is page. Page is arranged by using dome. Components in the page are arranged by using shadow dome. Components like date, components like file, components like color, all these comes under that category. So many are there, so many will be there. So these are all responsible for handling this. So what is dome and what is shadow dome? Shadow dome, right? I hope everyone is clear. Is it clear to everyone? Two options. One is dome, another one shadow dome. Right? We have to understand these 2 points. I hope it is clear to everybody what is dome and shadow dome. Now the question here is, what is virtual dome? What is the concept of virtual dome? That means now what is this virtual dome? What is the concept of virtual dome? How this virtual dome works? This also I will save as a shadow dome. Okay. Yeah. Later I will upload into classroom these all diagrams. Now another important is, what is this virtual dome? What is the concept of virtual dome? How this virtual dome works? Actually, to understand this, that means you need to know that suppose we have the browser and we have the browser. Now, generally, for every browser, we have the browser memory. Actually, what happens is browser contains the actual DOM. That means the actual DOM is presented in this browser. That means we will usually have a parent-child hierarchy. That means this is a parent, okay? And under the parent, we have some child. So like this, we have a parent-child hierarchy under this DOM. That means this is the actual DOM. So that means we have an actual DOM, the original DOM of your page. Now what happens is, now what React, Vue like technologies they do is, they put two duplicate copies of this DOM in the memory. They put two duplicate copies of the DOM in the memory. They put two duplicate copies of the DOM in the memory. That means in the memory, there are two duplicate copies for this. In the memory, they put two duplicate copies for this. That means two duplicate copies. So this is two duplicate copies. This is one and this is the second one. Two duplicate copies. Now what is the point here is, here we have our React application. That means this is ReactJS. That means here we have the React application. We have a ReactJS application. What this ReactJS application will do is, it is going to use this virtual DOM. React is going to use the virtual DOM, so it is not going to use the actual DOM directly. It is going to use the virtual DOM. Now, why two copies are there? So that means actually this is nothing but this is the previous, and this is the current. This is the previous and this is the current. Now what happened is you done some modification inside this app. That means now app is updating something. That means app is updating. This is updating element. Understood? Element. It is updating element with some data. Am I right? It is updating element with some data. That means actually this is sending some value into this element. So suppose it is sending a value called hi. It is sending some update with that. Now what happens is it will verify, it will verify this previous, it will verify the previous and current. It will verify the previous and current. That means what this DOM will do is it will verify, it will verify with the previous. It will verify with the previous and it will find that previously here it is empty, now it is filled with hi. That means it finds that there is some change happened. There is some change happened in this area. That means some change happened in that area. It finds that the change happened in this area. When the change happened in this area, what it will do is it will update only that change into the actual DOM. It will update only that change into the actual DOM, into this actual DOM. Whereas other technologies will generate this entire DOM again. Whereas other technologies will generate this entire DOM again. It generates the entire DOM again. If it is generating the entire DOM again, that means everything is loaded again. But here it is only pushing those details. That means it is finding out. This is called actually as diff model. Differential mechanism actually. I will tell you detail point when we start practically also. We will see that. This is called as reconciliation. Reconciliation. Reconciliation in React is a technique of identifying the actual value with the previous value, comparing the actual value with the previous value. If actual value C, that means actual this is current DOM and previous. If current and previous both are same, that means no change occurred. That means it will use a simple algorithm. That algorithm is nothing but if previous is not equal to current. If previous is not equal to current, that means what? If previous is not equal to current, that means no change happened. That means change detected. Am I right? Change detected. If previous is equal to current, if previous is equal to current, then no change detected. It is no change detected. No change detected. This is called diff mechanism. That means it will verify whether the previous DOM and the current DOM are same. If previous DOM and current DOM is same, it will not update. It will update only if there is a change, and it will update only the change that is happened there. Only the change that happened there. For this, implicitly, to update only the change, it can use the AJAX approach. That is what yesterday I told you, that implicitly, internally, it uses AJAX. AJAX means don't think that only for accessing APIs or rendering data. AJAX is everywhere where we require partial postbacks, partial rendering, partial updates. Everywhere this AJAX happens in the background. This is actually maintained by a React library, which is handled by a React library. That means what is this diff mechanism? Diff mechanism is verifying is it updated or not. Now very important is this report is sent to you. That means whatever you updated, you are watching in virtual DOM. You are watching in virtual DOM. That means it is immediately sent to you. Right on the screen, you will see that it is updated with which message? Hi. But in the background, it will update later. It will take time in updating the actual DOM. But before it updates, you got the output already on the screen. That is the reason it feels like it is fast. it feels like it is fast. It feels like it is fast, but every concept have some technical points. Actually, suppose if I ask, like, many times you might have heard that, suppose I'm using a browser, little bit internet connection is slow, means internet pages are loading slow, then somebody will recommend me that use this browser, it is fast. Am I right? Somebody recommends that use this browser, this is fast. Are you serious? How browser makes my internet fast? Don't fool me. Right? What do you say? You are saying that you are using 1 Mbps speed and using Safari browser will be high speed. Right? Internet speed doesn't depends on your browser. It depends on the modem capacity. How much bytes receiving, how much bytes sending, that is the. Then how come you say that this browser is fast? How come you say that this browser is fast, this browser is slow? Are you serious? You are saying that internet speed depends on browser? Then what is that point? Is there any technique behind this? Using any browser makes internet speed really fast? Actually, it is not fast, because Opera is known as the fastest browser. That is the reason even on mobiles you have Opera. Opera Mini is the browser we used so many days on mobiles. Opera Mini is the browser. Why it is fast? It is fast because actually it is not fast. It uses more memory. When it uses more memory, it can load a large amount of data at a time and show you. You feel like fast, but it is more, not fast. You are watching more details. That means another browser can show 4 lines. This browser can show 5 lines. You are feeling it as fast, but it is not fast. It is more. It is more. That the same concept here also. That means you feel like it is fast. Of course, it looks like fast, but in the background it will take time. But we are not concerned about that. We are concerned about the UI is fast or not. That means anyhow it is UI is fast or not. Finally, it has to update on actual DOM. Finally, it should update on actual DOM. But it will take time. That means, for example, you see when you place an order online, you say click the button order. That means it says confirm. For you, it says confirmed, but in the background, it will take some time. That means the message confirmed, it doesn't mean that it is confirmed. After you confirmed also, server may respond slow, it may fail. That means it says confirmed. That means confirmed. Then it starts processing. Due to some technical reason, the server not responded. Then immediately they will come back to you after a few minutes. The transaction failed. Then what you confirmed? I confirmed that posting completed, but transaction is still pending. Posting is completed, transaction is pending. React works like this. That means React shows the immediate output, but actually in the background it will take time to render everything. That means who is going to manage this library? This is going to manage by React. What is the concept of React? Working with virtual DOM. So making it virtual DOM, that means virtual DOM will immediately show you the updates. In the background, it will be updating. It will be updating. Later, it will update into the actual DOM. So that means you have 2 copies of virtual DOM. One is technically, one is the previous and another one is current. That is the reason this diff model is called as, actually, we call this diff as a single source of truth. We call it as single source of truth. Single source of truth means it will identify are there any changes or not. If there are changes, it will update. No changes, it will not update. The mechanism of identifying the changes, keeping tracking of changes, it is technically called as single source of truth. Single source of truth. We technically call like that. Diff mechanism works with this single source of truth. These technical words are important for React people in experience level interviews. What is diff? What is single source of truth? What is virtual DOM? What is shadow DOM? So how virtual DOM is fast, right? So reconciliation, this is the technique actually. That means that is how the virtual DOM works. That means this is how the virtual DOM works. The React virtual DOM, that means how it is going to handle. So technically, the virtual DOM is a concept of where a virtual representation of UI is kept in the memory, and it is synced with the actual DOM. This process is called as what? Reconciliation. In React, if anybody asks what is reconciliation in React, reconciliation is the process of updating the virtual DOM into actual DOM, identifying the differences between the previous and current, and updating the changes. This process is called as reconciliation. And in React, which library maintains this reconciliation? Actually, React have a library called React DOM. This is the library which will do this work. Later I will tell you about libraries. Technically we will go into that later. So this is one of the key feature. That means why it is popular, right? So this is the basic definition. This presentation also I will upload to you, huh? This is the presentation. This is actually the concept of virtual DOM, right? Why virtual DOM is faster. So if anyone asks why virtual DOM is faster, this is the reason. What is diff mechanism and what is reconciliation? So diff mechanism is nothing but identifying the differences between the previous and current DOM. If there is both are equal, then no change. If not equal, then some change. Identifying the changes and updating to the actual DOM. So we have three important things: DOM, virtual DOM, and shadow DOM. And I hope you know why React is very popular with this shadow virtual DOM. That means what is the advantage of this? It is faster. So better performance. That means it is faster in rendering the user interfaces. It is better in performance. However, some technical issues are there. Some technical problems are there with React. So those we need to know what are the issues of React now. So these are all the major features of React. In new versions, some more features added. Those are technical features which you will learn while learning the technology, right? Once you know this, that means now you need to know what are the versions, how to install, how to set up, and how to create React application, how to use React in our projects. That's the process we have to see practically now, that we'll see tomorrow, right? In tomorrow's session we are going to start practical. That means we are going to see how to set up, install React, how to use React in our projects, how to work with that, what are the versions, and how do we work with them, setting up, practically working, everything we will see tomorrow. So we will start practical from tomorrow onwards. Okay, right? I hope you are clear with all these topics. All these notes I will upload into the classroom. Tomorrow will continue. Okay, right? Yes, Chetan. What is your doubt?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello.
What is your doubt? You
Yes.
can speak.
Sir, you said like a difference model or different mechanism finds the difference between DOM for current DOM and the previous DOM. This process repeats itself at which point? It happens every microsecond or
Yes, you
after
are
you.
not audible. Can you be a little loud?
Can you hear me now, sir? Can you hear me? Hello. Can you hear
Chetan,
me?
you have any doubts? You are not audible. Can you speak little loud?
Can you hear me now, sir?
Yes.
Yes. So you said like a different mechanism or diff mechanism happens
Uh,
which checks the difference between the current DOM and the previous DOM, right?
uh,
So this process repeat itself at what time? Means it
you
repeat.
are very low. Chetan, can you speak loud?
Hello, can you hear me, sir?
Am I audible now?
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Yes, tell me.
Yeah. So the difference mechanism happens at what point? It happens every microsecond or whenever
Yes.
the input changes.
Whenever any update happens, update is not just only input, right?
Okay.
I hope you are clear.
No, sir. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, means if there is a input box and until and unless I there is a form on the web page, until and unless I click anywhere on the web page or until and unless I provide any input, the difference mechanism will
Not
not work.
Chetan, why you are explaining me all this? Tell me the point what you are looking for correctly. What is your point?
I think there is voice problems, sir.
What is your correct point, Chetan?
I want to ask like when that difference mechanism will start checking the difference between current DOM and the previous
When
DOM.
any change occurred in the UI.
Okay.
When any change occurred in the UI,
Okay. Okay.
right?
Yes. Yes.
Change can be related to anything related to DOM manipulations. Huh?
Okay. DOM manipulation. Fine. Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else? Clear? Okay. Then let's continue in tomorrow's session. So right. Thank you.